Sabine Ren's Force abilities in the Star Wars Disney Plus TV show AHSOKA were criticized, but she wasn't the only Rebels character who changed the Force. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching for more details. Sabine Ren's unexpected Force abilities in AHSOKA created controversy and signaled a major update in the Star Wars universe. Another Star Wars Rebels character's sudden use of the Force further reshapes the nature of the Force in Star Wars. Star Wars is moving towards a more egalitarian view of the Force, where anyone can access and potentially wield its power. Although Sabine Ren's aptitude with the Force in AHSOKA was controversial, another Star Wars Rebels character had an even subtler Force connection in the show, signaling a massive Star Wars update. Despite Sabine exhibiting little to no Force ability in Rebels or much of AHSOKA, Sabine showed considerable Force powers in the AHSOKA Season 1 finale. To save Ezra Bridger from remaining trapped on Peridea, Sabine used the Force to push him across a great distance through the air and onto Grand Admiral Thrawn's ship. In part because Sabine had never shown Force sensitivity before, many were critical of this move by Star Wars. However, Sabine Ren was only one of the Rebels characters who tapped into the Force in AHSOKA. In fact, another surprise Force user among AHSOKA's cast and characters will have a much bigger impact on the nature of the Force throughout Star Wars movies and TV shows. Sabine Ren's sudden Force abilities in AHSOKA were so highly debated because they seemingly changed the rules of the Force. Although Sabine had wielded the Darksaber in Rebels, she didn't seem to have the Force. Instead, that ability seemed entirely related to her Mandalorian roots. The reveal that she had trained as Ahsoka Tano's Jedi apprentice following Rebels therefore came as quite a shock. The confusion and tension only seemed to grow as additional episodes of AHSOKA confirmed that Sabine had very little Force sensitivity. In fact, Huyang, the lightsaber droid that had been part of the Jedi Order for thousands of years, repeatedly said that Sabine would never have been in the Order and had the lowest natural ability with the Force he'd ever seen. This meant that Star Wars was fundamentally reshaping how the Force worked. Now, not only could anyone wield the Force, but also anyone could train as a Jedi, no matter their Force sensitivity. While that was certainly a controversial decision, Sabine Ren wasn't the most shocking example of this new definition of the Force. Instead, that moment came when Jacen Syndulla, the son of Jedi Kanan Jarrus and Hera Syndulla, taught his mother to use the Force. If Sabine had never exhibited the Force, Hera had done so even less. Hera was an incredible pilot and a brave rebel, but she had shown absolutely zero Force sensitivity, and she had certainly never been trained in the ways of the Force. Despite that, when Jacen, who is Force sensitive, could hear Ahsoka Tano and her former master Anakin Skywalker battling in the world, between worlds through the Force, he was able to help Hera hear it too. That is, in just a few moments, Jacen was able to tell Hera to really listen over the noise of the waves and hear the sound of the lightsabers clashing using the Force. Although Hera didn't verbally confirm that she could hear them, it was clear that she did. After briefly standing still and listening with her eyes closed, Hera smiled and turned to Carson Teva, a rebel pilot, to tell him they would be searching along the surface of the water for AHSOKA. Given that, it's evident that Hera was able to tap into the Force in that moment, hearing into the world between worlds. This, much more so than Sabine's Jedi arc, truly reshapes the nature of the Force in Star Wars. Between Sabine's Jedi training, despite her very limited Force aptitude, and Hera Syndulla's ability to use the Force to hear into the world between worlds, Star Wars has made it clear that the Force is no longer going to be the nearly mythical power that can only be wielded by the most exceptional. Unlike the framing of the Force in the Star Wars prequel trilogy, wherein the Jedi Order identified the most Force-sensitive children to be trained as Jedi. The Force, as it was represented in AHSOKA, is something that one simply has to try to use. In fact, in Hera's case, the Force wasn't even something she had to train to master. Instead, it took only focus for her to access it. This has massive implications for Star Wars' future, particularly for projects such as Rey's upcoming Star Wars movie. With the Force seemingly becoming something much more egalitarian, the nature of the Jedi could change radically. While the full implications remain to be seen, this moment of Hera Syndulla using the Force in AHSOKA makes clear that the Force is irrevocably changing in Star Wars.